All right, so hello, Jeremy. We are getting to discuss viruses of microbes, the one that is upcoming in Australia. I'm so excited to talk to you today, and also for you to be the very first podcast guest on a non-existent podcast that will exist after this. Bear with us on the, you know, attempt at winging this and seeing what podcasting is like, and if the Phage community would like us to keep going. I'm here with Jeremy Barr. So Jeremy is a professor at Monash University in Australia, and he is the one kind of spearheading this VOM conference coming up along with his large group of helpers, I know. Welcome, Jeremy. How are you?
Thanks. Thanks, Jess. Doing really well, and want to give a big thanks to Phage Directory, to you and Jan. Shout out for being your inaugural podcast guest. Hope it continues. Hope there's many more. I'm doing well. Exciting times. There's a lot going on. We're a couple months out from Viruses of Microbes, which is both truly exciting and truly terrifying at the same time. It's been a lot of years in planning and work, and it's all sort of coming together pretty quickly. But yes, very excited, doing well, and thankful for the opportunity to chat today.
Yeah. I want to touch on the long years of planning because I feel like this is a special meeting, or maybe it's not exceptional in this, maybe it is, but do all meetings like require years of prep, or when did you start prepping for this?
Yeah, so we started prepping for this. I'm not going to get the exact year. I want to say like 2018 or so. I think I got an email from ISVM, and that's the International Society for Viruses of Microbes. They are the organizing body behind the Viruses of Microbes meeting. And I got an email from them. I want to say it was in about 2018, asking if if myself or someone would consider putting their hand up to host a meeting, a VOM meeting in Australia. And I remember at that time, I wrote back and said, not right now, very interested, but I just didn't think it was the right time for me. And I think I'm quite thankful I said no initially, because if I said yes, I think we would have been one of the COVID meetings. And shout out to Joanna, the Portugal team, and the Georgia team for all the changes they did in their meetings through COVID. But I think I got a follow-up email, and I think it was late 2019, and that was to put in a bid to host the 2024 meeting. And that time I felt like, yes, this is a great time. I think I'm ready. I think Australia is a great place to put our hand up to host this meeting. And so we sent off an application in 2019. There was a lot more involved than I first thought it would be in terms of the application. There's a lot of details. We had to sketch and plan where we were going to host the meeting, even a preliminary budget for something that's sort of 3-4 years away. And that was exciting. It was exciting times. It was a lot of prep work. And then obviously a couple months later, COVID happened and the world changed. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done? I've agreed to host an international meeting, and we've just got into a pandemic. But it's all sort of worked out. And yeah, now we're a couple months out from the actual meeting itself.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Yeah, like 5 years in the making. We're okay. And yeah, this will be not the first in-person meeting since COVID, but the third. Is it possible? There was
Yeah,
Portugal and there was Georgia 2 years back to
exactly. So
back.
we've had a bit of a reshuffle. So 2000 was meant to be Portugal, and that got shuffled and pushed back to 2002 due to COVID. And that was a phenomenal meeting. I think that was a great meeting for a lot of people in the field. Really, first time people reconnecting. It was my first in-person meeting since the pandemic started. And that was a great meeting. But I think the follow-on effect from that was that Tbilisi in Georgia was meant to be 2002, and they very graciously decided to push their meeting back 1 year to allow the Portugal team to have their meeting. So we had 2002 in Portugal, 2003 in Tbilisi, and our meeting wasn't really impacted. We stuck with 2004. I guess one slight knock-on effect of this is that we've had 3 VOMs over 3 years, and this is traditionally and will be a sort of bi-yearly meeting. So the next meeting will be in 2006. But it's great to see us sort of get through the pandemic, and now we're here, and we've had hopefully soon to be three amazing VOM meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so exciting that this one's not in Europe for the very first time. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. First time outside of Europe.
Wow. So we're gonna see if they get on a plane and come down to the land down under where I just left, sadly, after 2 years of awesome Aussie adventures. And I almost made it to Cairns, or Cairns, as I'm told to say it. Uh, we were, so that's where the meeting's hosted for everyone listening. And yeah, that's where the Great Barrier Reef is. And me and Jan were about to go there at Christmas just before leaving Australia. And a cyclone hit, and we had to cancel it like 2 days in advance. And it was devastating.
Yes.
And so we still haven't been there. And yet then we left Australia. And now we will not be able to come to this meeting because of just the transition period being like just the wrong time point. So my frustration of missing this is strong, but maybe you can tell everyone else who might be thinking about going, what is it like up there? And yeah, what's the deal? Is the Great Barrier Reef still standing? And what will it be like if you go?
Yes. So it's gonna be incredible hosting the meeting in Cairns. And you do get it right second time. So for all the internationals, it's a silent I and a silent R, I suppose. So Cairns is how we say it. And this is the first ball meeting outside of Europe, which was a bit ambitious. Part of the goal of this meeting is to broaden the reach of the VOM meetings and ISVM. We've got a lot of opportunity to connect and network with some additional researchers, scientists, companies in our geographic region. Pushing a lot from Southeast Asia, of course, Australia and New Zealand, India, China, Japan, South Korea, a lot of our neighboring and supporting countries. So I'm really excited, and we've had some great interest from researchers in those regions. Cairns itself is a beautiful location, and I chose this location for a couple reasons. And I think, the first one was it's an international tourist destination. It's really a place that I think everyone should visit. I'm sad you didn't make it up there. It is known, it is in the tropics in Australia, so it is known to get the infrequent cyclone and tropical storm. The one thing I'll say about our meeting is that it is in July, which is the traditional time for our meetings. And July is winter in Australia. And so another reason I hosted in Cairns is I live in Melbourne, which is down in the very southeast corner in Australia. And I didn't necessarily want to bring everyone to Melbourne in winter. It's quite rainy and cold. I hope you come and visit, but maybe not the best time for a traditional European summer conference. But Cairns in July is honestly the best time to go. It's the winter season, but it stays beautiful and warm. It's average temperature of about 22 to 27 degrees Celsius. I'm not going to be able to do the Fahrenheit conversion in my head for the Americans.
Me neither.
Warm, quite temperate. It's the quiet season, so we don't get a lot of storms in June, July, and it's the best time to go and visit and look out in the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef is still there. Yes, we've gone through a number of bleaching events. I think there's another major bleaching event that just happened this summer, which is always really sad to hear. But I've been multiple times out in the reef. It's truly a spectacular experience, and I'd really encourage anyone who's coming along at least take a day to go out and visit the Great Barrier Reef. It's an amazing area, and Cairns is just such a unique location that just situated right on the shores of the Barrier Reef. You've got the rainforest. It's a great destination.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, so no cyclones are going to happen, guaranteed. It is winter. So yeah, we never should have planned a trip during Christmas. That's the wrong time, but we realized we ran out of time, so we had no choice. But anyway, so what do I want to ask you? Because I have so many questions. So I guess like maybe you could paint a picture. What is the conference center going to be like? And what is the vibe going to be like during the conference? It's almost a week long, I think, for these meetings. And where are people staying? Because sometimes, yeah, I feel like that could change every meeting. So what's it going to be like?
Yeah, definitely. So the VOM meeting is traditionally a sort of 4.5 day meeting. So we're going to start late in the Monday afternoon and finish on Friday afternoon. Cairns itself, look, Cairns is not one of our capital cities. It's sort of a regional city, so it's not a huge or a large city itself. The conference is going to be hosted at the Cairns Convention Center. I actually went my first ever conference. It was an ISME conference during my PhD. It was in Cairns at the conference convention center, and it's a brilliant location. They've just gone through a big renovation. There's a big focus on environmentalism, big outdoor green spaces. It's, you can expect a sort of world-class conference center, big open auditorium, flat hall space for our posters, vendors, and our sort of lunches and morning teas. Cairns City itself is it's a bit more relaxed. It's not a major urban city in Australia. There's definitely a city centre. There's, beautiful esplanades. There's lots of walking spaces, lots of greenery. Not as dense. It's a bit more quiet, bit more of a slower, sort of more relaxed lifestyle. The conference venue itself is right sort of near downtown Cairns, so it's very close to the bars, which is, I think, one of the most important things in the meeting. So there'll be lots of opportunities for post-conference drinks and foods and catch up with everyone. It's a very walkable city. There's also some public transport, and of course, there's Ubers and taxis to get around. So it should be quite accessible for everyone going along.
Amazing. One thing that actually, back to the cyclone, when that was happening, we saw in the news there was crocodiles that were being rescued because of the flood. And so, what is the crocodile situation? And are there going to be crocodiles right beside us at the beach, or are we pretty much okay?
So it's a great question. I can pretty confidently say that there won't be crocodiles right beside you, but crocodiles are native and endemic to that Cairns region and to much of northern Queensland. Um, a good tip, you don't go near open waterways in Cairns. It's probably a good thing for all international people to know. You'll see signs saying crocs in this area. Don't go by the riverbank. It does sound a little scary, but it's well designed and you shouldn't have those opportunities. Uh, Actually, one of my trips to Cairns, I actually got on a jet ski and we went up and we did this tour up into the estuaries. And so we're on jet skis, riding through the sort of the creeks, and you go through the mangrove swamps, and the kind of tropical rainforest around that area. And I remember coming around river bends and you would just see crocodiles sort of on the edge of the shore, and they'd scuttle into the water. I can say I did fall off my jet ski multiple times and I lived to tell the tale. So
Oh my
they are around.
gosh.
You definitely need to respect them. You should get an opportunity to see some crocs while you're up there. Something to just be aware about.
So cool. Yeah, I remember when we were looking around at places to stay, there was like that esplanade thing. I think it was like a big public sort of swimming area, almost like a pool beside the ocean, because you
Yes,
can't really, yeah, no crocodiles allowed. So I know that they've, got infrastructure to support living
exactly.
the beachy life without
Exactly.
getting
There's a nice
eaten.
croc free pool that everyone can access.
Amazing. Okay, so we'll flip from crocodiles back to science and back again, presumably. So, science, what is the scientific program shaping up to be? And is it all finalized, and is it a secret, or are you allowed to give us some hints about who we're gonna hear from and what topics?
Definitely. So I can give you some insight into the scientific program. So the program itself is all semi-finalized. Invites for oral presentations and poster presentations have just been sent out in the last week. So we've got a scientific program. We're just waiting for all the talks to be accepted. So I can't give you too many details yet, but I can tell you a little about the structure. So 4.5 day meeting. We've got four incredible keynote speakers and presentations coming along, which I'm really excited about. We've got 11 or 12 invited speakers, so one invited speaker for each of our symposium topics across the meeting. And each of our symposium topics, we have between 3 to 5 selected talks from the abstracts. This was we had our scientific organizing committee and also our local organizing committee helping in reviewing all the abstracts. We had over 470 abstracts submitted for the meeting, which was incredible. It was also a real challenge to review. I have a lot of respect for everyone who's built scientific programs in the past. It's a lot of work, a lot of stress, but I'm really excited for how that program shaped up. We've got a really diverse meeting. We've got a really good mix of gender, geography, career stage, industry, academic presentations. It's going to be an amazing meeting, and we should have a full program up on our website in early to mid-May.
Early to mid-May. Okay, so probably this will come out in about 2 weeks, so probably early May. So any day now or week now when you hear this, you can kind of keep an eye out on the vom2024.org. We'll also blast it in caps and tail for sure. Wow, 470 abstracts. Okay,
Yeah.
so are you no longer stressed that people aren't going to come to the meeting because it's so far away? It seems like they will be there.
I hope people will be there. Still a little bit stressed. I'd be lying if I didn't have a few recurring nightmares where I, wake up in the middle of the night and think no one's going to attend the meeting. So we do have early bird registration approaching. I believe that's closing on the 17th of May. And that's
Okay.
really a key deadline. So I'd really encourage everybody who's planning to come along to the meeting, get your registrations in by that early bird deadline so you secure the best rates that you can for the meeting.
Yep.
And yeah, hopefully we'll have a better idea of numbers and what to expect after that.
Awesome. What can you tell us about as an organizer? What was something that went wrong as you've been as you've been doing this? Somebody, back out, your caterer canceled on you, or what's like the most stressful thing that's induced stress dreams for you so far?
Yeah, it's look, I would say, knock on wood, nothing yet has gone incredibly wrong. Nothing's gone wrong that I can really point my finger to. It's been stressful throughout. It's been a lot of work. It's been a bit of a mix of sort of slower, really long-term planning mixed in with some really kind of high intensity periods. When our abstract were due and we had to go through abstract ranking and selection, that was a really intensive period. I will give a shout out to our amazing local organizing committee. Big shout out to Ruby Lynn, who's co-running the meeting with me, along with all of our organizing committee across Australia and New Zealand. They've just been incredible to work with, real pleasure to work with, and I'm just really proud to have worked with everyone in that committee. They've all really taken on different roles, taken on a bit more leadership, taken some of the pressure and time off me. And so that's just been really, really great to work with that team, and it's taken a lot of that stress off. It's been a great experience. I'm really glad I put my name up for this, and we've decided to organize this meeting. I will be excited when the meeting is concluded for sure, but it's been a great experience, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yay. Okay. I'm checking through my list of questions. Oh yeah. Okay. So what kind of fun things do you have planned for the evenings, or is there sort of a dinner or like any kind of events that everybody's going to do together?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a few sort of events planned, and I think a really exciting social program. So as I said, the meeting is going to formally start on Monday afternoon. And maybe the first event that I want to give a bit of a plug for is on the Monday morning. We've got our pre-conference workshop. This is actually, we got funding from the Australian Academy of Sciences to run this workshop, and it's going to be run by a organizer called Shane Huntington. Shane is a scientist, but he's also a communication expert, and he's going to run about a 3.5 hour workshop on communication.
Wow.
It's going to start with sort of a masterclass in communication. And I would really emphasize that it's such an important technique. And this is really pitched to our PhDs and our early career researchers, our ECRs. Communication is effectively everything you do in your science. You're either communicating verbally, you're writing and communicating your work, presenting at conferences, of course. And so Shane's going to start with that communication masterclass. He's then going to give a session on how to write an effective grant and cover letter to sort of apply for jobs, apply for funding, and try to give our PhDs and ECRs a bit more training as they move through their career. And then, of course, it's going to finish with the communication session on verbal presentations. A number of our students will be given either posters or talks at the conference. So that's going to be an amazing meeting or workshop, sorry. encourage people to have a look at that. It is limited on numbers, so if you are interested, I'd really recommend you register sooner rather than later for the conference and also the pre-meeting workshop. I can then say in terms of our social programs, so we've got our opening ceremony on the Monday night. That's going to have two incredible keynote speakers. We've got Colin Hill from UC Cork and Ireland, and we've got Jill Banfield from UC Berkeley, and also here at Monash University giving keynote opening lectures, which I'm very, very excited about. And
Awesome.
following that, mixer event, drinks, food at the conference center, which will be great. And then, of course, we've got our big dinner, and our big dinner is going to be on the Thursday night of the conference. It's going to be following the back of a kind of dedicated day mostly to phage therapy. And we're going to be having this up in a place called Rainforest Station Nature Park. And attendees are going to be picked up. They're going to be picked up from the conference center on buses. We're going to have buses running in shuttle loops. It's about a 25 to 30-minute drive up into the Daintree rainforest. So you'll be going on some windy roads through the tropical rainforest, and will be dropped off in this Rainforest Station Nature Park. This is an open park. It's going to be a private function for our event. It's going to be more of an interactive setting. So rather than sitting down at a table, you're going to be standing up, you're going to have food and drink and be mingling with people. I can give you a heads up that there'll be some Australian animals around. There'll be wallabies and emus you'll have the chance to feed. I'm sure some koalas will make an appearance, maybe some snakes, some of our lizards. And there's also a tour you can do. So you can get on a World War II Army duck and go through a guided tour through the Daintree rainforest. You actually drive through creeks and tracks and really get into the rainforest proper. So it's going to be a really different event, but I think it's going to be very
Cool.
exciting.
Wow. Yay. Okay. This is what I was hoping for, that we're going like into the wilderness and
Exactly.
yes.
You'll go right into the rainforest. Yeah.
So cool. Okay. Yay. Um, so I'm guessing there's a lot of students that are trying to hope that their PI will send them to this meeting. If you were them, how would you be making that case? Or do you have any tips for people to just, make the convincing case to their PIs at this point? Like, I need to go to this meeting.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I can say a few things. Firstly, I'll say I went to my first Viruses of Microbes. It was in Zurich. I'm going to guess it was 2014. I might get that year wrong. And I was a early career postdoc. And it was an amazing meeting. I don't think I knew many people. I maybe met a couple of people at Evergreen before that, but it was one of my first phage meetings. I think I went on my own in terms of the lab, and I met a lot of people, and it was a great networking opportunity. And so what I would say to students, to ECRs who want to come along to this meeting and need to make that case to your PI, yes, the science is incredible, and you'll see some amazing presentations from some really leading researchers in the field, and also some emerging early career researchers. But I'd say the more impactful part of the meeting is the networking and connections and collaborations that you meet. Connecting with researchers, meeting people in your field, meeting your peers, people at a similar career stage who are going to grow in that field with you is incredibly valuable. It's also really rewarding. It's one of the things I enjoy most about these meetings, is reconnecting with friends and colleagues. And so I would make that case to your supervisor that yes, we're going to see amazing science, but I'm actually going to go there and network. I'm going to connect with people. You might want to have a very targeted approach. I want to go and speak to this keynote speaker or this inspired speaker. We will have an opportunity for the ECRs in a sort of closed meet the speaker event to give them that time and opportunity to meet some of our speakers. And I would also come up with a bit of a plan. If you're going to this meeting, what do you really want to get out of it? Who do you want to meet? What information or knowledge or potential collaborations do you want to bring back to your group? And I think there's lots of opportunities there. And it's one of the most important things you could do at a meeting is broaden your connections and your collaborations. And that can really pay dividends for your career as you move forward.
That's awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. I was at that Zurich meeting, and that was my first VOM as well.
It was as
So
well.
you did get the year right. It was so fun. So do you have any personal stories for yourself for what's something cool that came out of a conference, like a collaborator that you met that led to something, or like a good friend that you still work with to put you on the
I
spot?
absolutely no. I mean, I've got so many of those stories, and I'll maybe give a few examples. Uh, and I really will emphasize this point. I think the most important part of going to these meetings is the networking and the collaboration. It's it's so it's so incredibly important. And so from meeting people at these meetings, I've had follow-up Zoom calls and meetings to discuss potential collaborations and research ideas. I've been invited to come on to grant applications. We've hosted people in our lab that have met me at meetings, or met people in our lab at meetings, and have come out and visited our lab for weeks, sometimes a couple of months. I've done the reciprocal particularly when I was a postdoc. I went across to a few other groups internationally. I spent some time in Europe. Obviously, I was in the US for a little while as well. And a lot of that came off the back of meetings and just meeting people. So, it leads to new research ideas. I think it can lead to publications, grant funding opportunities. It's so incredibly important. And I'd say most people are really open to this. I have people come up to chat to me at meetings and want to discuss science and potentially visiting our lab or starting a new project idea, or being involved in a grant application. And my answer is almost always, yes, I'd be happy to be involved, happy to chat to you further. So don't be afraid, especially if you're an ECR. Have that chat, say hello. I really remember people. If people come up and say hi to me, introduce themselves, or they give a really great talk or a poster presentation, it's something that sticks with me from those conferences and from those meetings. And so use that, leverage that. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this kind of thinking about like making a plan for your conference before you go. Like such good advice, because I feel like whenever I used to go to conferences, I just kind of show up, and I think I was oriented toward just like listen to all the talks, and that is the point of a conference. And so taking notes on those and making sure I, went to them all. But I remember there was one meeting, I don't know, I went rogue from my advisor, I think, at that point. And I went around, I think it was Evergreen, and I went around with my abstract book, and like at the end where everyone's names are listed, I went around and was trying to check off everybody's name. So I was trying to meet everyone. And then I was made fun of to no end by my PI and fellow grad students, because they were like, oh, what a Jessica thing to do. And so but then I realized like that was the most valuable thing I did, so way more than just, whatever the talks, even though that's what led to the meetings with the people, because then you have something
Yeah.
to ask them about. But
Yeah.
it wasn't like the point. So yeah.
Yeah. I would absolutely echo that, and I would add on, one of my favorite part of the VOM meetings are the poster sessions, and the talks are always great and amazing, but the talk is very sort of one way, someone speaking at you and you sitting back and listening, versus the posters, you're meeting people, you're having those one-on-one discussions. There's so much science, there's so much diversity there in what's happening, and I really love that. So I really make sure I have as much time with the posters as I can. And we'll be having, 3 dedicated poster sessions at the meeting. It's a great opportunity. So yeah, I really echo your thoughts there.
What's your tips for students when they have like a famous professor they want to talk to? Like, how are they supposed to just go up to them, and what should they say, or what should they do?
Yeah, I would say everybody here is a person, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that everybody would be more than happy to chat and say hello. I totally understand it can be intimidating to, go up to this person. You've read all their papers, you've seen all the amazing work that they've led and their groups are leading. But don't let that stop you from saying hi to people. There's a lot of time in these meetings over coffee and lunch and drinks and poster sessions. You're going to see these people walking around. You're going to see them, interacting, and make some time. I would say take that step, put your nerves aside, and go up and say hello. And that's all it takes, You're like, hello, my name is, I'm doing this research, big fan of your work, and just have a chat. They're normal people. They're excited about science. I always take those opportunities to speak to as many different people as I can at these meetings. So don't be afraid. Uh, you know, no one will say no to saying hello and talking about themselves for a couple of minutes. So ask them what they're doing, what their thoughts are, and make sure you introduce yourself.
Love it. Yes. Um, so for housing, what's the housing situation? Are people staying in hotels? Is the conference center connected to hotels, or is there some student housing or things like that, shared student places to stay?
Yep, so there's lots of different accommodation options in Cairns. On our website, we've got a few of these listed. So there's several hotels. So there are hotels very close by to the conference center. We've tried to find some hotels with different price points from sort of both high-end, medium budgets, and a couple of sort of lower-end budgets. I'd also say people can look at Airbnb and other kind of apartment rentals. There's a number of self-serviced apartments, Airbnbs, rooms and full units and houses that people can book. So some of these could be good for larger labs looking to go, or if you've got a group of people that you're wanting to stay with. So there should be a good diversity of accommodation options available. Most of that will be walkable. So if you're staying within the Cairns sort of downtown city center, most of the hotels will be within about a 5-minute walk to the conference. There is some accommodation options that are a bit further out from Cairns itself. Some of them may not be walkable, but there are buses available, and there's also taxis and Ubers that you can get around fairly easily.
Oh, cool. It's always good to know if Uber exists in a place, and
Yes,
no one knows anything about Australia, so we need to tell them it's a civilized place. Yes. Okay, I have maybe just a couple more questions. Um, First, one more on the kind of just the demographic. So how many people are you expecting, and how many countries? Do you have a sense of where people are all coming from yet, or any stats?
Yeah, so I think at the moment, and let's say we're about a month out from early bird closing, we've got about 200 registered delegates for the meeting. We're expecting that to increase as we get to our early bird registration. In terms of our abstracts, I mentioned before, we had over 470 abstracts submitted for the meeting, and these were really diverse. I think we had 40 to 50 countries from people submitting, lots of ECRs, lots of PhDs, and maybe one other aspect of the meeting I'll give a shout out to is really promoting PhDs and ECRs. This meeting's traditionally always been a single stream, meaning everyone is present in the same session, which is great. I really enjoy it. But I think one of the downsides to that is that PhDs and postdoc ECRs don't get as many opportunities to talk. And so we're doing one thing differently at this meeting, and that's on the Tuesday afternoon, is we're going to have an ECR focus session. It's going to be a split session. It's going to be the first split session in the history of the VOM meeting. And we'll be splitting the meeting in half. There'll be 2 presentation rooms. And the reason for this is to give PhDs and ECRs more opportunities to speak. So we'll have 12 presentations from PhDs and ECRs in that split meeting, really to increase that cohort that's presenting at the meeting.
That's awesome. Yay. Yeah, I feel like Australia really does a good job at focusing on early career researchers. Like that was definitely something I sensed when I was there. And there's so much more like intentionality behind like training and things like that. So I'm glad to see, like, it seems like the meeting kind of has that focus as
Definitely.
well.
Good. Yeah.
Yay. How about funding opportunities? Is that maybe that's all past those kind of deadlines? I haven't been keeping up, but are there scholarships that still can be applied for, or how does that go?
Yep. So our travel scholarships have closed, and we've actually already selected our travel scholarships. So they've all gone out. That was incredibly challenging as well. I think the abstracts and building the program was really tough. Going through and selecting and awarding our travel scholarships was also really challenging. So they have all closed in terms of our meeting so far, but we funded travel scholarships across low to middle income countries. We gave away some scholarships associated with care leave and bringing and supporting families, an Indigenous scholarship. We had a focus on our geographic region, so Southeast Asia and surrounding countries, and also student scholarships. So we've got a number of people we've been supporting for the meeting to come along to VOM 24.
Awesome. Okay, so the only deadline left for people to kind of keep in mind is the early bird. Is that right?
Correct. That's the main one coming up.
And that was May 17th? Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Um, awesome. Okay. I think I've hit upon everything I really wanted to talk to you about, except what is something people don't realize about Australia?
What is something people don't realize about Australia? Obviously Australia's very big. It's very far. I've had multiple people tell me how far the flight is. But I'm very happy to hear your experience on those flights. But Australia's a really large and diverse country. I think 95% of our population lives on the coast, and 90% of our population live in capital cities. And we've got some incredible capital cities. Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth are all amazing places to visit. They're incredible places to live. We've got great food, coffee, wine. It's really a great country, and I would hope that everyone who comes along to the VOM meeting takes some time to explore Australia. It's a beautiful place, and I'm really excited to bring everyone along to meeting and to see Australia.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for everyone. Yeah, I totally echo that. I feel like our main takeaway from Australia was like the food is just better than almost anywhere we've lived for sure. Like no one you don't realize that Australia is a foodie place, but I think it is.
Absolutely big foodie place. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and of course you do hear about the coffee, but yeah, I was expecting the coffee. I wasn't expecting the food. So yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for talking to me today. And thanks for organizing this and spending 5 years of your life making this happen. Everybody needs to, if they can, see if you can go to this meeting. And it'll be your chance to go see Australia. And then you'll all be moving there for 2 years like I did or more, because we almost didn't leave. So thank you. And we'll get this
Thank you,
out.
Jess,
Yep.
and thanks to Phage Directory for hosting us.
Thank you.